Well, good morning, Kelowna and Victoria. In Kelowna, it's still pretty white out here. I imagine it's starting to melt down in Victoria. You've had some snow, but the snow was welcomed here. We really did need it, and pretty soon, though, it's warming up now. So, as Ken said when I walked in the studio, it's going to it'll be a mess.
Yeah, we're expecting possibly 2 degrees, maybe tomorrow, and in that range, 2 to 3 with snow. And so it's going to snow as well more. We already have about a foot, somewhere around that, depending where you live. And, it's going to turn to mush.
So there's a pre-tip of the week, okay? Yep. If it does come down heavy snow tomorrow in Kelowna, in Okanagan, get that off your trees and shrubs because it can cause a lot of damage, that heavy snow, like it did last year. Tips and plants of the week.
You betcha.
My tip of the week is to join a garden club or any club specifically dealing with your interests, such as a bonsai club or a succulent club, the Dahlia Society, which we're going to talk about later in the show here. All sorts of clubs out there for gardeners to join, and you can also join the Xeriscape folks. You can do all sorts of things. That's my tip. Join a club. Plant of the week is Maranta, the prayer plant. It's a very easy to grow house plant, like last week's plant was a very easy to grow one too. So these are house plants that are, for beginner plants, beginner plant lovers. And the Maranta is commonly called the prayer plant, and that's my plant of the week.
There you go. I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week is that at this time of year, you can start thinking about bringing up a few of your geranium plants and potting them up and just getting them going as houseplants in pots and start them growing a little bit. Typically, after about a month or so, that allows you to take some cuttings around the end of February or into early March. And this allows you to have some fresh cuttings for spring that are always nice to have a few extra geraniums around. So there you go. And my plant of the week this week is the hosta. It's the hosta of the year in 2024. Actually, it's called Hudson Bay, and this is one of the new improved varieties that is just outstanding. It's a bluish tone of leaf, bluish with some green, and then also with the yellow in the center as well, and kind of a rounded leaf itself, averaging in size at 24 to 30 inches by 24 to 30 inches. And, of course, in our climate, we grow them predominantly in the shade. But great plants and quite drought-tolerant, surprisingly, as hostas will be. Yeah. All right, well, that's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check GrowerCoach.com and GrowerCoach on YouTube.
And for our dear listeners at the coast, is this new hosta slug and snail resistant?
Yeah, I don't. That's a good question. A lot of them are, a lot of the new ones, and that's usually when they're selected as the plant of the year, like that, like hosta of the year. They have all those good attributes.
What about deer?
Deer will eat hostas. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and people eat hostas too, by the way, as salad. Yeah, really? But deer will eat them from time to time, and some varieties. I've heard hundreds of different types of hostas. The blue-leafed ones, like the Seaboldianas and that sort of thing, the large-leafed types have been the best for deer resistance, but I don't think any of them are really they're not their number one pick, but it seems like certain ones. Some of the older varieties are definitely deer food, but some of the newer ones, not so much. But it all has to do with your backyard and what what the deer decide is delicious.
The other day, Ken, on the news, there was a cougar sighting out in the Mission.
Oh, yeah.
And the folks from the wildlife people went on the air saying that the cougar is just not, this particular cougar is not acting unusually. It's, doing cougar things, and it's really more after the deer. And I thought, oh, great, everyone should have a cougar in their yard to keep that deer away.
For all of us gardeners.
I thought, how many cougars is it going to take to cure the deer problem? But
probably
anyway,
a lot.
Good-looking animal, though. I mean, what a beautiful cat. Big cat. And the key thing, of course, with that, folks, here out in the Mission, that cougar's wandering around, key thing is just to keep your pets inside at night, because they would. But they say, the wildlife person was saying, people are not cougar food. They don't really go after. There's only been one fatality of cougar attack
in the last
30 years or something.
60,
so
years, whatever,
anyway, well, whatever. I wouldn't want to go and pet it. That's for sure.
No, that's for sure. And yeah, like you say, keep your pets safe. Same with coyotes. I mean, they come after your pets.
I think they're a little more aggressive, and they have. Hey, I've got a friend, a cousin of Donna's, who said that a friend of his was up on the Coquihalla, and he was at the truck stop checking his tires or something, and a coyote bit him in the leg.
Oh,
and the coyote was hanging around because there's garbage in those areas. Guys, silly. They throw garbage out, and of course the coyotes come around for that. And the coyote bit him right in the leg, grabbed onto him, actually punctured his leg.
Oh yeah, they're extremely strong and tough, and you don't want to mess with them. That's for sure.
Wiley
Do not feed them.
What they needed was a roadrunner.
Yeah, there you go. They always outsmart them every time.
There you go. Well, give us a call today. Let's lighten this up today. We've got a great guest coming on after the 9 o'clock news break. We've got Patric Ryan, and he's from the Alaska. I mentioned that last week. I said we're going to see if we can get him on, and he's all into it. He wants to talk about Alaska gardening. We're going to talk about his talk at the Northwest Flower and Garden Show on Hypertuffa planters. And, we're going to have fun with him. And also, coming up in the spring, I've been contacted by the Dahlia Society in Victoria.
Right.
And they want to have somebody come on and talk about dahlias. And I have got a call out to someone for the Chrysanthemum Society. Remember, Ken, years ago, chrysanthemums were huge. I mean, they're big now, but it's the cushion mums, and, they're fine. They're nice. They're great fall color and stuff. But I'm talking about the big exhibition chrysanthemums that people used to collect.
Yep.
And, Indian summer and
there's so many. They're still popular in certain areas. I don't think they're as popular in North America, but around the world. They're
in Japan. They're big in Japan.
And England.
And I was in Toronto about 4 years ago, 4 years ago, with Donna, and we went to the Botanic, conservatory. It was city-run conservatory. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was really, really cool. If you're ever in Toronto, it's free. It's a city-run thing, and it's free. And I would suggest you go there. We went, and we happened to go there when they were having the chrysanthemum exhibition.
Nice.
And I've got pictures of chrysanthemums.
Their disc buds.
Recurves and disc buds are all beautiful.
Beautiful.
Really,
things.
really cool. Really cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So we are going to invite your calls, 250-862-2525 if you live here in the Okanagan, in the Kelowna area, and 1-888-780-4273 if you're living and calling in from Victoria or anywhere online. And this is show number. We have, how many shows? We've had a total of 1,930 shows since we started in 1983.
Yeah.
1,930.
So,
it's going to be 2025, somewhere in May, when we hit the 2,000. So it's going to be kind of fun.
We'll do a special show then for sure.
You bet.
Yep, that's exciting.
Now, the prayer plant that I talked about, we've had one for years now. And as I said, it's one of those plants that you can kill very easily by over-watering it.
Yeah.
But it does tell you, there's a number of plants that we have that that Donna just loves. We've got that pothos that we've had since 1973 in a tiny little container, and we just keep cutting it back, and it keeps growing. Same soil, same everything, and it's hanging off one of the cabinets in the living room, and it just all of a sudden it's just hanging there. It just looks like it's drying up.
Looks like it's dying.
Yeah, hit it with water and it pops right back. It's as happy as
sort of like the Marantas as well, the prayer plants, is when they do dry out like that, they'll give you the symptoms. But but if you miss it and you still water it, about a day or two later, you get a yellow leaf shows up.
Yes.
And that's where plants have that natural reaction to drying out. It's like the more leaves they have, the more water they need. So sometimes they'll shed the older leaves, or leaves that are not as important, they'll be like, yeah, I don't need these extra leaves right now. I'm low on water. I'm not sure. Is it going to continue? So they will start to shed. And you water it right away, but it's already been triggered. Once it's triggered, it's still going to drop that leaf, but it might be a week or two later sometimes. So that's where, again, people will say, "Oh, I have yellow leaf, on my plant, or the bottom leaves are turning yellow." And the question is, that could have been an event like that, a drought that happened 2 weeks ago. And now everything is fine and back to normal, but the plant's already triggered that. There's no reversing it once it starts, and it sheds a couple leaves. So that's all I do. I just snip off yellow leaves when I see them, and I don't let it stress me out.
No, don't let it stress you out. But how many plants have you killed, Ken? I mean, you probably can't count them on.
I have to kill a lot.
Well,
it's part of the fun of gardening.
Here's a couple of plants that I've had trouble with over the years, keeping alive and having for any length of time. Norfolk Island pines.
Yeah.
I've had Ericaria. I've really had difficulty keeping those alive in the house.
Yeah, for sure.
Although I've been to some people's homes and they're just crazy huge.
Yeah, when they get about 12 feet high, they've got every spot in their house where it can grow. They filled it, so now they got to give it to somebody with a higher ceiling.
Yeah. And then eventually you can log it and slice it up and make boxes out of it.
It's surprising though when you do go to the tropics, or even this like Florida and those areas, semi-tropical. They do grow there, and they're beautiful big trees. Like you say, 100 feet high. Some of them. Yeah.
Ken, we just talk away here, and we're missing that first break again.
You bet.
Yeah. And I'll talk about another couple of plants I've had trouble with over the years too. But we're going to take a short break. We invite your calls when we come back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, this morning it was -2 in my backyard.
Yeah. -3 when I drove in this morning.
Yeah, so. And it's only -2 in the fig house too right now. And
perfect.
18 in the greenhouse, of course. I'm keeping that heat going, paying the gas bill, and getting that, keeping that on board. +4 in Victoria, according to the Weather Channel this morning. So you're nice and balmy there. Highs of 0 today in Kelowna, but I think it's going to be a little warmer than that. And +6 in Victoria predicted for today. But as Ken said, there's some snow coming around the corner too. So that's going to be wet snow.
Yeah, it could be. And they're saying freezing rain in some areas. And freezing rain and wet snow are hard on plants. There's just no doubt about it. Trees.
Physically hard.
Yeah, last winter we had the trees bent right. Like we're talking 50, 60-foot high trees along the roadways, and the tops of the trees were touching the road. So they were bent right over.
Oh, I know.
And it was brutal. You had to drive down the road and weave in between those treetops because they were just everywhere. And it was a bit shocking, but that also tells you the flexibility of these deciduous trees. And so last year, the deciduous trees did not lose their leaves. That was really bad, right? It held the snow, and that's the reason why they did that. But talk about flexibility. Hey, those trees just won't bend down. So trees that are deciduous, sometimes they have that flexibility, sometimes they don't. But coniferous trees are even more flexible because they're sort of designed that way because they're going to have leaves during the winter, right? So they'll usually slough that snow off pretty easily, but it's up to us to go out and knock it off, especially hedges or smaller bushes and trees, things of value, take care of them.
Yeah, it's really something, the damage that can happen. We are going to get the tour to the Northwest Flora Garden Show is on. We are still room on the bus for folks. You can phone Sun Fun Tours at 250-763-6133 and see if there's able to get on. But the cutoff date was on the 19th, but I think they still have enough power there that they can find a room for you down there.
It was just yesterday. So
if you
can get on that, because it's all about the rooms. It's not always about the bus and the space on the bus, but it's about the rooms that they're reserving.
The rooms at the hotel.
Yeah.
Now the other thing, Ken, is that I looked up the website of the show, and if you want to see the lineup of speakers, there's dozens of speakers, and they have a bio for each speaker and what they like, what they talk about, right? Very interesting. I just did that this morning. And if you look up Northwest Flower and Garden Show speakers, 2024 speakers, they will, all the pictures of the speakers are there, and their bio and everything is underneath them. And what a bunch of, Cisco is in there. He's one of the very first hits. Cisco's there. Yeah, character, real character. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be fun, as it always is. And and we want to talk about the Garden Club session coming up too. Yeah, that's coming up the fall. Once we get back from Seattle, the Garden Club session is on the 24th, I believe.
24th, and the show is leaves on the 14th, so it's a 10-day spread there, right?
No, I'm talking about the Garden Club.
I know, but the Seattle trip is the 14th.
Yeah,
right?
15th, 16th, 17th, and 18th. 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th away. And then on the 24th, the following week, is the Garden Club, the Garden Club
perfect
session.
Wow, what a way to kick off the spring.
Oh, it's going to be great. And really, if you want to look up, and they will call in today, hopefully, Linda or someone will call in and talk about it. But if you want to look up that event, the Kelowna Garden Club event that's coming up in February, just go Kelowna Garden Club events, and it'll give you that.
Yeah, and then CD Sunday and CD Saturdays are right after that. Early March.
You bet. They're coming up. So things are moving along here for spring. And as we've said before, this is our favorite time of the year. Often in the fall we say that, and it is. By that time, it's kind of a reprieve from the heat and all that. It's favorite time of the year because it's fall. But we know that fall ahead of us is winter. And so for gardeners,
we're in winter now. We're just looking at
now we're looking,
spring is ahead. Yep.
And I'm getting excited. The days now are 40 odd minutes longer than they were on December 22nd. So things are starting to brighten up in the greenhouse. Another 3 weeks, and the plants in the greenhouse are going to be hopping. They'll just be excited to get all going.
You betcha.
Yeah. And I think we're going to have Dan Bruce phone in shortly to the garden show after the next break. And we really do invite your calls. We love to talk to you. That's what makes the garden show go. Without the audience, there ain't no show. And we love hearing your gardening stories. And at this time of year, there aren't a lot of gardening stories, but there are some concerns I'm sure you have that you've got where you need some help. Also, sharing some information. Ken and I are always appreciative of the fact that we learn so much ourselves on this show, having people talk about their gardens and talk about their plants and their experiences.
What they're doing, seeding right now is coming up. Like, a lot of things are seeding, but there's a lot of things you don't seed. And that's just as important as what you do seed, right?
Exactly. People get a little overzealous at this time.
Oh, yeah. I remember, like, tomatoes, usually, once I get to the 1st of April, I'm thinking, I'm going to seed my tomatoes soon, you know. Peppers, you could do, like, almost a month earlier. They're slower to start.
I think.
Yeah. And then hot peppers, they're ones you got to do pretty soon
quick,
here. Yeah, the end of January here.
Well, I've got a lot of hot peppers that are dried now that I use. If for anyone out there that loves heat in their food, the absolute best thing you can do, and you can't really buy this stuff on the market. You can't. No. Where do you buy? I mean, they talk about paprika and the various nothing compared to what we can grind up and do. I mean, this stuff is good. A mixture of all the hot peppers that we can grow, the chili peppers and the habaneros and some ghost and some, a mixture.
Hot stuff.
And I just put them in my coffee grinder.
You put it on a gas mask.
I got a gas mask on. I've got coveralls on. I've got my hazmat suit on because I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah.
And you do it outside, of course.
It's dusty because it's got to be dry before you start.
Really dry, and I've got a lot of dried ones, so I'm going to make a bunch more little canisters. Now, I took one of those to Mexico with me a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I had our Mexican friends down there fighting over it. They were fighting. They want, and I left it with them, but they were fighting over this canister because it was so good. And so it's a great way to heat up. You got soup, just a couple of sprinkles in there, just makes the heat come out of that soup.
Oh, yeah.
some people don't like heat. There are some people that just don't like heat, and that's fine. But just remember, folks, the ones that don't like heat, it's not burning you. There's no burn. It does not burn your skin.
Yeah.
It tells your brain your skin is burning.
Is on fire.
But it's not burning. It's the capsicum. So then after the big burn, you haven't damaged yourself. I've had it in my eyes. There's no, it doesn't damage anything. It causes heat and feels like it's burning, but it doesn't leave scars and whatever.
Yeah, your eyes will close up and you'll be in the hospital for a couple of days.
In
but
agony. You're in agony, but it doesn't hurt any of your skin, doesn't harm anything. It just tells
it's just psychological.
It's not really. It tells your brain that you're burning. Because you're burning, all of a sudden, all this dopamine gets released.
Right.
And you have that beautiful dopamine high.
Oh, that's what happens. Okay.
Remember the time somebody came into the greenhouse with the habaneros and challenged us in the staff room to chew on this habanero.
Yeah.
And I took a big whacking bite, and I was in convulsions on the floor. And everybody was actually worried about me. I was phoned 911.
Yeah.
And then when all of a sudden, euphoria came about.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you want to have that, try some
near-death
some
experience is what it is.
Try some pepper burn. We're going to take that break, 250-862-2525 to get through to us, 1-888-780-4273 to get through to us. If you're from out of town, Victoria area, or anywhere online, we will be back with The Garden Show after this short break. Well, here we are back with you again on the second portion here. Not the second portion, but the portion after the first portion. Well, I guess it is the second portion. And after the second portion,
25% through
25% through the show. We welcome our friend Dan Bruce to the show again. Dan, it's a little snowy out in your neck of the woods, but it's going to melt.
Yes, eventually.
Yeah.
Eventually, yeah.
But melting is good. We need the moisture.
We do need the moisture. And that's,
although my back is killing me from shoveling snow, I am not complaining.
Yeah, you've got a long driveway, and it's not the easiest one to shovel. That's for sure.
Don't you have any young kids that are neighbors that could come and do that for you?
Well, no. They're either too old and too smart, or they're too young and too weak.
Weak and lazy.
You need the in-between
millennials. Ooh, we better be careful. Dan, what have you got on your mind today?
Well, we were talking about William Robinson last week.
Yes.
And he is indeed a fascinating character who definitely needs to be better known. There's a story was going around about him that turned out to be untrue, or at least a very great exaggeration, and that was one of his early employers in Ireland. He had fallen out with William Robinson, and there was a huge argument. And Robinson, being somewhat opinionated, wouldn't quit. So the story goes that one January night, when it was really cold, for Ireland that is, he let the fires go out that heated the greenhouses, and he opened the vents. Oh. And then he left for Dublin.
Oh, dear.
So all the plants died.
Oh boy! Ooh, yeah.
But that is an unfounded rumor.
Mm-hmm. Somebody did that to me, they'd be toast.
If you could catch them.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, Robinson. That was 1861 when he moved from Ireland to England, and as I said, he established this huge estate in Sussex, Gravesty Manor. And was into the publishing business, so he made very good money, and was consulted by all manner of people. And gardening is quite a bit of a leveling affair in the social world. Yeah,
levels the playing field.
Well, I remember being in London myself at one of the RHS shows, and there across the other side of the table is this a young fellow who was growing rhododendrons, and he was in somewhat fierce argument with an older gentleman who turned out to be Lord Aberconway, one of the greatest rhododendron growers in England. Mm-hmm. Anyway, they were having this, not an argument, but they were, both being quite forceful about it, and it was all good. Now, speaking of lords and things, William Robinson was in communication with Lord Redesdale, who was a government official and diplomat. The interesting thing is that Redesdale was giving William Robinson advice on growing bamboos because he had spent time in Japan. And in fact, it was King Edward VII who sent Lord Redesdale to Japan on a special embassy. This is directly after the Russian-Japanese War, 1904-1905. Lord Redesdale was sent to Japan, and his duty was to convey the Order of the Garter, which is Britain's highest honor, to convey the Order of the Garter on the Emperor of Japan. And while he was at it, he was told to give the Award of Merit to Admiral Togo and to Prince Oyama. And of course, that brings it back to the Okanagan, because it was at that time that Oyama, just north of here, was named such in honor of the Japanese soldier.
Wow, that's really interesting. Now, a couple of things here, Dan. I know you've got something else to say there, but a couple of things that comes to mind, okay? When you talk about a lord, okay,
yes.
How do you become a lord in England?
Well, you can become one through birth, but you can also be awarded the status by the monarch.
Okay. So they're lord of the manor, lord of the whatever.
And it can be ended by being shot.
Okay, right. And this garter thing,
yes.
Like for me, a garter is something you hold up silk stockings with.
Yep.
And what's the significance? If that's the highest honor, it just the garter. What is that? How does that work?
Careful.
No, I know. I'm just saying. How does that work?
Well, it would take me longer than I've got to explain it. But if you want, I can give you in a nutshell the thing. I can give that to you next week if you want.
Let's do that.
Sure.
Let's talk about garters next week.
Yes, as opposed to gardening.
I like gardening, yeah. Okay.
Anyway, yeah. So, 1905. That was when that event took place, and of course, that was the year that Kelowna was incorporated.
Yeah.
Oh.
See, it all ties together, Dan, doesn't it? It's very, very cool.
You know one thing? We are all on the same planet.
You betcha. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you, somebody else is on the same planet, too, and we're going to have him as a guest in about half an hour coming on. His name is Patric Ryan, and he is in charge of one of the people in charge of the Alaska Botanic Garden. And I saw him speak down in Seattle a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, and he was talking about Hypertuffa planters and how to build them and whatnot. I got all excited about that. Anyway, he is going to phone in, so tune in at just after 9 and listen to him, because he's going to be very interesting to chat with.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, and I agree. I might be on the driveway doing my shoveling thing, but I'll be with you in spirit.
Well, then just open the window of the car, turn the radio up loud, and you can hear it. AM 1150.
I got it. it.
Okay, Dan. We'll check in with you next week.
Right.
Take care, man.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Bye
Dan.
for now.
Take care. Bye-bye. Yeah, his driveway is quite the driveway. Holy, I've actually shoveled it before.
Yeah,
actually, I think several times in the years in the past.
It's a long, steep driveway. Yeah.
Yeah.
We are having Wendy join us. Now, is this our Wendy?
This is your Wendy.
I
was just phoning with a funny story about his driveway.
Oh,
okay.
And Ken will have to, fix it if I'm getting it wrong, but Dan was going somewhere very warm, and it was the dead of winter. And so he asked Ken if he would come and pick him up and take him to the airport so he didn't have to leave his car at the airport. Ken said, oh, sure, no problem. So he drives his truck over and to the top of the driveway and phones Dan, and Dan's sleeping. He slept in.
Oh, dear.
So then it was a panic. And so Ken, it was taken so long, Ken went down to open the gate and leave his truck running. And all of a sudden he looks over and his truck is driving away.
Oh, dear.
Somebody got in his already running truck and drove it away. So there they are. No vehicle to go to the airport.
Oh, my.
That was at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, Ken calls the police, and the police come, and they accuse him of being out on an all-nighter and park it, and then walking up the dams because they found the car after they'd gone and looked around. It was just left somewhere.
It was crashed over an embankment.
Oh, my God.
Well,
Wendy, that's a heck of a story. And you know, the police are first to jump on something. And Ken looks a little bit
I'm a little bit of a rough.
Shady, you know. He looks shady.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I had to talk my way out of that one.
Not really a gardening story, but it's a Dan Bruce
Dan Bruce story.
Driveway story, yeah, because I was afraid to go, even though it was a big 4x4 truck and everything, I was afraid to go down that driveway because, you know, once you go down it, there's no guarantee you're going to get back out.
I know, especially in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
Wendy, great.
Okay, guys, let's go.
Okay, Wendy, thanks for the call.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Lots of Dan Bruce stories out there, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
250-862-2525 if you want to join us, or 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling in from Victoria or anywhere in the listening audience. And the Victoria gardeners are getting pretty excited, I bet, because now that the weather's warming up, things are going to be hopping out there. They were already starting to push. A lot of the bulbs and things were starting to push.
And forsythias starting to bloom and stuff.
To really
so I don't know, that cold snap has been pretty brutal, and the grape growers are suffering.
Are they worrying again this year?
Oh, yeah. Anything past -20, it's
2 years in a row here in the Okanagan, and it's not good. I'm wondering how my laurel's going to make it. Anyway, it is what it is. You know, we can't cry over dead plants, is what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Depends how many you have, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, if you're going to start growing things in the Okanagan that aren't hardy here, you're going to suffer.
Well, yeah, what was hardy years ago? Because as this climate was getting warmer and warmer and warmer, everybody's growing more and more different species and things. And so they all moved north. And so we were trying things that maybe, you know, but that's what we are as gardeners. We try
Last year was an anomaly. But the only thing is, I'm hoping this year, because the cold snap didn't last as long as it did last year. Like, I mean, it got cold, but I'm hoping things are better this year. Anyway, we don't know until spring breaks, and then we'll know what the damage has been.
Yep.
We're going to take a short break now. We welcome your calls when we come back with The Garden Show after this short break. Well, Maxine DeHart wrote an article about the upcoming event with the Garden Club, the beautiful Gardening into the Future event that's coming up in just a short time now. That we encourage anybody interested in expanding their gardening knowledge and just jumping into spring, please take part in this. It's going to be great. But we have one of those beautiful women that were in that picture in Maxine's thing. We have one calling in right now. Lisa, you guys are looking good.
Thanks, Don. Good morning. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Yeah, so you're going to talk about the event coming up.
Yeah, so I just wanted to reach out again and let you guys, thank you so much for promoting our event and bringing it to your listeners' attention. So the event is on February 24th. It's from 9 until 4 p.m. at Trinity. And there's 4 speakers that day. So Ken is one of them, and you are hosting, and that's fantastic. And we've got speakers that are speaking about pest management and drought-tolerant plants and how we can plant better in the valley so that we reduce our fire risk and have our plants survive in this the changing climate that we have. We're talking about vegetables and container gardening. And, so all the information is available either on our website or, if you're interested, straight over to Eventbrite and just search Gardening into the Future.
And, Lisa, lunch is included.
Lunch is included, and there's 4 choices for lunch. So,
do Ken and I get lunch too?
Yes,
Oh,
absolutely.
Great. Well, I'm in.
We
I'm
can
in.
sign up.
I'm signing up. No, this is going to be a great event, and first time, but it's also in celebration of 100 years of existence for the Garden Club.
Yeah, we're so excited to be doing this for our 100th and giving back to the community in many ways over the course of this year. And this is just the start of it.
Yeah, I was reading something about Elaine Cameron being quite involved with the Garden Club. Now, when was? Yeah, she was very, very involved. And we talk about Elaine Cameron just about every week during the spring and summer because of her gardens and her diary that we have. And that's one thing that I might do is kind of go through her diary and just see if there's something in there pertaining to the club, because I know she was quite active in that.
Yes, I'm sure she is. I've seen her name, so I'm sure there's plenty of information about our club in her little diaries.
And also Mrs. License, who lived right across the street. The License family, Mr. License was one of the first ferry operators, and he also had this big range of greenhouses, and he was instrumental in looking for oil out in a mission. They had an oil derrick out there, and they had investors, and everything was going to go.
That's fascinating.
There was no oil though; it was a dry well. Anyway, I've got pictures of that.
Fantastic!
It'd be fun to actually share those with you and see what we can do with that. Anyway, that event coming up is exciting. I'm looking forward to it, Lisa, and good work, and that's a great picture of all the movers and shakers in the Garden Club.
Current executive for this year, yeah.
Great.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay.
So thanks very much.
You betcha.
Yeah.
Thanks, Lisa. Take care.
Yep.
Okay,
Thanks
bye-bye.
for calling.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
And we have
nice.
Sandy phoning in. Good morning, Sandy. How are you this morning?
Good morning. I'm good.
Good.
So I'll be at that event with my canning that mostly comes from my garden.
Ooh.
Yes. We
That'd be
we
nice.
didn't mention that. Lisa didn't mention that we got
There's going to be some vendors there.
some vendors there and demos and all sorts of neat stuff going on. It's going to be quite the day.
I'm hoping. What do you do in February?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we'll get go. And, it looks like the weather, it's hard to say this far back away, but it looks like the weather is turning around. I was looking right up into February 3rd and 4th, according to the Weather Channel, that things are pretty pleasant here in the valley, which is good in many, many ways. Maybe not so good in others, because you can expect anything right up to the end of February. You can expect any kind of weather.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes January end looks like you should plant everything. In February, it looks like frozen.
Yeah, that's right. Once you get into March, we're not too bad off, although we can get some cold weather, but not the ugly stuff.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, so
Could remain optimistic.
Yeah. On my greenhouse front,
Yes.
I've been growing Egyptian walking onions. So I have green onions.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
And the other day, they were just beautiful, and I went out, and now they are covered in aphids.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They wash off easily.
They do wash off.
Yeah, I think the planter's just going to go outside.
Yeah. Well, that'll fix the aphids.
Covered.
That'll fix the aphids, and it won't hurt the onions. Here's the deal. It's easy to wash aphids off a lot of things, including onions. Difficult to get aphids out of Brussels sprouts.
Oh, yeah.
That's the tough
Any of
part.
those.
That's why I don't grow Brussels sprouts anymore.
And kale.
I can't deal with the aphids.
Cover it with that insect screen.
Those gray aphids.
It's amazing. I put
That'll
the
stop
insect
the
screen,
aphids.
it stops everything.
Oh,
There's
good.
just absolutely clean. What it doesn't stop is crawling insects. So then what happens is the earwigs move in, and the little pill bugs and sow bugs. There's always something.
Yeah. So what is it with the aphids? The flying portion comes in and lays the eggs, or what?
Yeah, that's it. You just keep them out, and they're never.
I got to get them out of the greenhouse before they get to the flying and get on everything else.
Oh, I know. Well, and aphids are not. They're kind of host specific. Yeah. Like those gray aphids go on your brassica family. Mm-hmm. There's green aphids that go on roses. There's a real red aphid that goes on my false sunflower. It's pure red.
Yep.
It doesn't go on anything else. It just goes on the false sunflower.
Yep.
It's interesting.
There's sort of family specific.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I had the red ones on a mandevilla I tried to take over.
Okay. There you go. Well, Sandy, we always appreciate your input, and keep up the good work. And we will look forward to seeing your preserves at the show.
Oh, I got some really nice hot stuff, too.
Oh, hot. Ooh. I know. I love hot stuff. Okay, Sandy.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Thank you, dear. It's it's going to be a great event coming up, and we really appreciate them phoning in and talking about it. Folks in the Kelowna and Valley, the Okanagan Valley area, this is your chance to jump into spring with that wonderful event happening February 24th, Gardening into the Future. And so it's going to be cool. And looking forward to that talk with Patric Ryan coming up after the break here. Patric Ryan is a garden writer, radio host, and education specialist at the Alaska Botanic Gardens. He's a garden communicator, a radio talk show host, and an Alaska Master Gardener, and the education specialist for the Botanic Garden in Alaska. He's worked for 20 years there. Patric trained as a junior Master Gardener specialist at Texas A&M and started a summer camp in Anchorage in 2004.
Wow.
So he retired as an elementary school teacher after 21 years. Patric continues to educate and inspire others as a regular contributor to the Alaska Botanic Garden newsletter. His articles has also been featured in the Anchorage Daily News and the Alaska Home magazine. Patric has presented his engaging and practical horticultural talks around the country. His new blog, Musings of an Alaska Gardener, is available on the popular Laid Back Gardening blog, which is widely embraced in the U.S. and Canada. Laid Back Gardening blog, Gardener blog. He's offered his expertise to gardeners, to those who teach gardeners, and most importantly, the children, who will be gardeners of the future. Pat believes everyone who plants a seed is connected to a miracle. Beyond horticulture, Patric has been performing guitar, is a performing guitarist and band leader for over 50 years. Mm-hmm. So again, we're going to have some fun with Patric, and I'm looking forward to his talk in Seattle as well. But after our break here, we're going to get him online. But we do encourage your calls, 250-862-2525 if you're phoning in from Kelowna area or the Okanagan, 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling in from anywhere online or in the Victoria area. And we're so happy to have our Victoria listeners with us. And those folks in Victoria that have an inkling to go to that flower and garden show, I know you can get down there quite easily, hopping the ferry and going down to Seattle and doing it. But we have a lot of fun on the bus. I have a gift that I'm right now busy in the workshop making little gifts. I've got all sorts of things from wooden boxes to pizza paddles to I'm making on my lathe some little brass tops. And they're going to be given out on the bus, too. So we'll have some fun with that, and that's what we do every time we go down to the show. And on the way back, we stop in to see Brian Minter. Brian Minter gives us a really nice talk. We have a lunch there, and, it's a lot of fun. And we shop, too.
Of course, shop till you drop.
Fill the bus full of plants on the way home from the coast.
Yep.
So on that note, we're going to take that break in just a couple of minutes here, a few seconds. 250-862-2525. Locally, 1-888-780-4273 if you're calling in from Victoria or anywhere online. And we will be back very shortly, and we just have to wait for a couple of seconds here to hit the post, as they say. You got to hit the post in radio, right? And that's what we're going to do. But on that note, I think we're going to take a short break here, and we will be back with the Garden Show after this short break. And here we are back with you again. It's a snowy day in Kelowna, and there's going to be some wet snow showing up pretty soon. But it is what it is.
Everything is lovely and white. And
that's
beautiful.
Right. Winter Wonderland, as they call it.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that we have Patric Ryan on the line with us. What an honor, Patric. I've already introduced you as a special guy, and when Donna and I were down at the Seattle show a few years ago, we saw you speak on Hypertuffa planters. Very impressed. In fact, we came home and bought a bunch of stuff to put them together, and we're somewhat successful. But Patric, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, and that is my intent on that. It's what they call a DIY, do-it-yourself setup in the big room there, and I want to show you how to do it, and I can do it in an hour. So, and encourage you to do it. So I'm proud of you guys. That's great.
A lot of fun. And I noticed on the Botanic Garden website, the Alaska Botanic Garden website, that there are some planters, quite a few planters there as well, and I'm sure you had something to do with those.
Yeah, and I teach classes on that during the summer, and I mix them up in 5-gallon buckets because I'm doing large amounts. But my kind of go-to thing is these little dish tubs, like you would wash your dishes in the sink. And it's a nice size. I've done a bowl, too. That's one of my favorite ones at home. I use the big Costco big steel bowl, or you could use a planter bowl, and you can mold it on the inside or outside of it. But that's one of my favorite ones. This year, I'm doing a cardboard box Hypertuffa. So I've just made one in my garage. I'll take one with me. So that's what I call the cooking show. I'll make one on stage, but I'll have one all ready to go that I could plant.
Of course. Now, how do you get that on the airplane?
Yeah, good question. Well,
worry about that later.
Yeah.
There you go. Look
and better than shipping raw cement, because that looks suspicious. When they X-ray it, what's this guy got here?
That's right. Look at Patric. Just give the folks here a little bit of an idea of what tufa planter is, what it emulates. It really goes back to the old sinks from the old country in Britain. Does it not?
Exactly, yeah. They would kind of hollow out a bit of stone and a porous limestone and make a little watering trough for the animals. And you probably cannot find those anymore. It'd be an antique item and be highly desirable. But so it is made of tufa rock, which is a porous limestone. But this is our Hypertuffa, so it's peat moss, Portland cement, and perlite. So it's not light, but it's lighter than a solid concrete thing would be. Right. And it is somewhat porous. I still drill drainage holes in it, and I use a pretty gritty soil mix, and use a lot of rock garden plants, some succulents and things, and little dwarf conifers look good in there. So it's a lot of fun. It's kind of addicting, though.
Well, I can imagine, and I'll tell you, I was honored to acquire some tufa planters, Hypertuffa planters, from one of our customers who moved into an assisted living situation, and she had a whole whack of these things. So I've got those in our garden too. There's really special, instead of buying a plastic container at Costco, have one of these Hypertuffa planters and that sort of thing. And that's what I encourage people to do, is to come to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show and enjoy Patric's demonstration. But boy, when you look at the speakers there are just dozens and dozens of speakers at the show, all very high quality folks, and we really enjoy that part. Now, tell us a little bit about, first of all, about the gardens in Alaska. Donna and I are now absolutely going to get up there, and we could say up there because we're down here. Whatever. We're going to get up there because we've always wanted to go to the north, to the Yukon and to Alaska, and enjoy the wonderful scenery and the wonderful. And I just looked it up. There's something like 1,800 species of plants that grow, native plants that grow up there too.
Yeah, we've got about 1,000 perennials species in the garden. Not all native, but the native planting is getting to be a big thing. That my beef with it, like in commerce, is you can't really buy a lot of native plants, and so we're kind of trying to work on that. And I've got a program I'm kind of trying to do to get people to grow some natives, and maybe initiate a school program where kids can do that too. And it'll be for pollinators and for us to enjoy some of the amazing flowers that don't look like they'd be hardy enough to last through 40 below weather, but they do.
Well, yeah, and we'll talk about that weather in a minute, but I just want to make sure you're aware that this radio show that we have here has been going since 1983, and Ken Salvail and I, Ken's my partner on air here, and Ken has a company, has a landscape company and whatnot, and he's had a perennial growing company as well, and he grew quite a few native plants in his operation. And, so we're both
it's
passionate.
always been a challenge, actually, just like you say, is that it's from a wholesale, 'cause I grew them wholesale, but I also had retail operations as well. And it was always, the availability was slim. And even when you did get them, there was such little knowledge about them that people didn't know what to get. And if I was standing there selling it to somebody, that was okay because I knew about the plant, but like you say, it's. I guess it's one of these things that if you can't, from a grower standpoint, if it's not going to sell like crazy, it's hard to grow it. So
yeah, exactly.
Got to make the leap of faith.
Yeah, and the rule, kind of the old saw for perennials, is the first year they sleep, the second year they creep, and the third year they leap. So growing from seed takes several years, unless you have a outdoor area, maybe like some folks do, plant rescue people harvest things from like a clear cut or a construction area, and they can, like, the one I'm thinking of is our logo plant for the garden is Cornus canadensis, and thank you for Canada for that. It's the Canada dogwood, beautiful plant.
Yes.
You can't just go out and dig up one. You got to have at least like a square foot, or better, like 3 square feet. So that's my kind of guiding plant for all these.
And the testing ground really is you just mentioned the word 40 below, 40 minus 40. That's Celsius, or is that Fahrenheit?
That's Fahrenheit.
Fahrenheit.
Both the same, actually.
You're speaking to a Canadian here. I've forgotten what Fahrenheit's like. But like 32 is darn hot here.
Minus 40 and minus 40 are the same. So that's one thing where they
intersect.
Right?
They intersect at minus 40. Okay, so we're both the same.
Either way, yeah.
There you go. But, it's one of the interesting things when we converted to the metric system here in Canada. One of the things that I have embraced full-heartedly is the temperature section. I forget what 32 degrees Fahrenheit feels like. Well, I know it's freezing. It's zero. That's zero. But and also the mileage, on your car, like the kilometers per hour. 50 kilometers an hour, 80 kilometers an hour. I know how fast that feels, right? But there are other things like measurements. When you boil it down to centimeters and meters and millimeters and that kind of thing. In Australia, I was hanging out with a fellow in Australia, and he's a builder, and that's all they do down there is it's all metric. I haven't been able to embrace that part of it. But anyway, tell us about the 40 below stuff. Like, okay, so what do you have to do? Can you grow some hardy roses?
If you're lucky. We love to challenge ourselves. We have what we call zone envy. We're actually a zone 4B. I know you guys probably have a different system.
Right.
They just kind of redid the U.S. Department of Agriculture, gave us a little more of a boost. We used to say it was zone 3. And then it's more interior, gets those really cold temps. And we've had hardly any below zero. It was 33 last week, so it was above freezing. It's about single digits today. So we don't really get that harsh stuff. Got the Japanese current nearby.
Right, you've got that influence of the ocean, haven't you?
Yeah, but we also have 100 inches of snow this year.
Oh, well, that's good. That protects things.
Yeah, it is good.
It's a great
protector. Fertilizer.
That's really good. Mechanopsis. What about that? Are you talking about the Himalayan blue poppy?
I am, and we try and encourage people to learn the word Mechanopsis. I think there's good value in knowing some of the Latin names.
Absolutely.
When there's a secret meaning, like our our wild rose is Rosa acicularis. Acicularis means little needle or little pin. And if you've ever grabbed a rose stem, you know what that's all about.
You bet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's fun learning them. So Mechanopsis, because they're not all blue, but it is the Himalayan blue poppy. We had a Panacea, a red one, bloom last year. We're growing them from seed. On our website, there's a great article from I'm spacing out their name, American, anyway, a big garden magazine, and tell you all about that. But we've got 14 species. We've grown them from seed. And there are as many as 50 in existence. So they can be white, pink, lavender.
That's exciting.
Red, yellow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Patrick, we're going to have to take a break. This is radio, and as you know, we have to take that break. But we hope you can hang on because we'd love to talk to you after the break. Okay?
I've got coffee. I'm good. Yep.
Okay, just hang in there, buddy.
Awesome.
We'll get back to you when we come back with The Garden Show after this short break. Okie dokie, we're back with you, and we have a wonderful guest with us today, Patric Ryan from the Alaska Botanic Gardens. And Ken and I, Patrick, were just talking about the fact that, you know, here in the Okanagan, it's a dry. We're in a semi-arid desert here. We're in one of Canada's only desert areas. And we get like 11 inches of rainfall a year. And that's not a lot of rain.
Less this year.
And less this year. It's going downhill. But we need the snow to protect our plants. And this year, of course, it got to be minus 29, minus 30 in some areas.
Yeah.
Celsius.
Yeah.
I'm talking about minus 30 Celsius in our neck of the woods without any snow cover. And that's what does the damage. So when you say you've got 100 inches of snow up there, that's a good protector for a lot of those plants.
Yeah. Well, you're driving down the road, and actually the streets are pretty clear right now. We haven't had snow recently, but, they plow it off to the side, and then it's as high as your car. So when you pull up to a stop sign, you got to kind of put your nose out there and peek around a little bit and make sure nobody's coming. So it's you have to adapt a little bit. But, yeah, and it's beautiful, too. So, and we have a thing at the garden right now. This is the last night for our brighter winter nights. We light up the garden, and I encourage people to go to our website at AlaskaBG for botanicalgarden.org, AlaskaBG.org. Some beautiful pictures. We've got ice sculptures. We've got the garden all lit up tonight. I'll be on the fire pit with kick sleds.
What a wonderful life! How long have you lived in Alaska?
I moved up here in '84, and I've been at the garden since '99.
Wow.
So,
good for you.
I taught first grade for 21 years, and I finally graduated from there. So I do a lot of work with kids here.
We want to talk to you a little bit, Patric. I know this isn't gardening, but Ken and I are both musicians. I didn't know if you knew that.
Oh, me too.
Ken's a guitar player, and I'm a drummer, and I play a little bit of clarinet and whatnot. We were both in bands over the years. I was in a band that went to Bermuda for 2 years in the early 70s, and New York and Toronto and whatnot. But ever since then, it's just been casual playing for me. What type of music do you play? And you're a guitar player, I understand.
I am a guitar player. We had a gig last night at my favorite place, our local golf club. There's an incredible view up there, and lots of wonderful dancing. These people kind of follow us around. And so it's pretty much blues-based. We do a lot of varieties for people. But that's where my heart is. So, the old traditional guys, Muddy Waters and King and all those guys, everybody and everything. So
I can relate to that. So one of these days we got to have a jam session because we were a blues band as well. So there you go.
All right.
So much fun. Much fun.
I think a lot of people are because I like to say blues is accessible music. You can learn to play it. And of course, it's more of a feeling kind of thing, but it's something that you can get into pretty quickly.
It's relatable to.
And you really got to listen to the words because they mean a lot.
Yeah,
in the blues.
And so just an aside, my band is called Silver Train. We named it after a Rolling Stones song because they named their band after a Muddy Waters song.
So, right on, buddy.
Right.
Are you going to be able to get down and see the Stones in Vancouver when they come?
Boy, I don't know. I'm an AARP member, I should get a special deal. But their promotion with that, I would love to have seen them many times up close too. So that'd be fun.
Yeah, I've seen them a couple of times, and I'm just so sad that Charlie's gone because it really does make it's a big difference without Charlie in the band. Anyway, that's band stuff. Let's talk a little bit more about gardening.
Okay.
The gardens, as you say, are I noticed on the website these ice sculptures all lit up. A fabulous show.
Yeah.
What a wonderful show. And
well, Fairbanks does an international ice carving thing, but ours is a little bit smaller, but really incredible things. I'd encourage people to take a look at that.
So Anchorage is where the Botanic Gardens are, right?
Correct.
Yeah, and that's on the coast more of Alaska, right?
Yeah, close, not tsunami close, but it's pretty good.
Yeah.
We got 110 acres, about 80 some fenced in with a moose fence, because we don't invite them into the garden. And we do get bears in there sometimes passing through, but they're sleeping right now, and some other wildlife. And we've got about 7 basic gardens, herb garden, several perennial beds, and working on some other additions, adding some more art to the garden. We've got these 2 giant magpies made out of like sticks and brush, and that's on the website too. You'll see that all lit up in the winter pictures. Beautiful.
Wow. Well, we're encouraging people in our listening audience to take a trip up to Alaska and see the gardens and see everything else that's involved there. What a wonderful neck of the woods you live in. And when you say Anchorage, that's why I thought it must be on the coast, because you don't anchor in the middle of the woods.
Right, too. Well, that was the original thing. Well, that was Captain Cook. He thought he found the Northwest Passage, and he ended up in a bay, which we now call Turnagain Arm, because he had to turn again. He couldn't get through, so that name stuck. Hey, can I do a shameless self-promotion here?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I do have a blog. It's called Musings from an Alaskan Gardener, and it's on the Laid Back Gardener blog, which is out of Canada, which is also en français, not according to me. I don't translate it, but Larry Hodgson is now deceased, but his son Matthew is heading it up, and Larry wrote like a blog or an article every day for years and has 60 garden books out, and so kind of rerunning some of his work, but he invited me before he passed to contribute, so I'm in there somewhere. So just look up under the Laid Back Gardener, and you'll find me in there. And there is an article, and my first one I wrote was a little bit about the Mechanopsis, and I refer to the garden sometimes, but I'm going to write one on Hypertuffa, since that's kind of fresh in my mind right now. I'd love to have people read it and read it in English or French.
Well, there you go. I've got high school French, but I'm not fluent. That's for sure.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah. So how many shows do you do in Seattle when you're down there?
Just the one. Last year I had a couple, but that's enough. It's kind of a quick in and out this time, because I'm going down a week later for a Kraken game down there.
Oh, right.
Yes, right.
Yeah, well, the Canucks are doing well this year. The Canucks are doing pretty good this year. I'll tell you, we're quite excited about that. But of course, you're not a fan.
Coolest game on earth. I love hockey.
It's a great game. I just started getting hooked on hockey this year. I have, I played when I was younger. I was before I got into the band thing, I was playing hockey. But Donna and I, my wife and I, really have embraced it this year, and looking at all the nuances and the plays, and the skating is fantastic.
Lots of fun.
And a lot of real talent there. And of course, Ken's an avid hockey fan too. So
yeah.
There you go. And it's neat to have Seattle Kraken on the board now, because
they're awesome team. Yeah, doing good right now. Looking good.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I think basketball should be played on ice. Make it
hey, wouldn't that be something?
There you go.
That would be something. That's a great idea. Yeah. Well, look at.
Well, it's an idea.
Yeah, you betcha. Patrick, we're going to have you come on again later when it warms up and the gardens are in full tilt boogie. We would love to have you come back on. It's been a delight to have you join us today for half an hour, and we appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate you guys. I'm glad you found me, and hopefully some people come down and to Seattle. February 17th is my show on Saturday. The thing runs that whole week, and come and say hi. Yeah,
my group is there Friday and Saturday for the 2 days, so we'll definitely come and say hello to you when I'm there.
We'll find you. Sounds good.
Okay, buddy. Thanks again.
Yeah. All right.
Thanks calling.
So much.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, that was great. That was great to have him on. And, boy, we talk about concerns here in the Okanagan when it gets cold in the winter and what we do with plants and how we get them through the winter and whatnot. 40 below. That's getting there.
Yeah, it's chilly. It's
pretty
on
chilly.
The chill side.
I was going to ask him about permafrost, too, because I think, isn't there a permafrost up there where you...
Oh, yeah. I'm sure in some areas.
Yeah.
But, Alaska, parts of Alaska are quite a bit warmer than the rest of that area, for sure.
We're going to have to take a break here at the, not quite taking a break at the bottom of the hour, but we do invite your calls, 250-862-2525 to get through to us in the Kelowna area, 1-888-780-4273 if you are anywhere online or in Victoria. We'll be back with The Garden Show right after this break. Okay, I've got a friend, client, but a friend as well, that has 6 hop plants. That's hop plants, not pot plants. Hop plants. 6 hop plants. That's what you make beer out of. Really good vine for the Okanagan. I've seen some really successful works. Donnie Stoltz has some hops along his as a vine that covers his shades his patio, and it was gorgeous last year. And anyway, this friend of mine has 6 of them available. If you're interested in these hop plants, or 1 or 2 or all of them, 6 of them, give me a shout on my cell phone or email me. That'd be the best thing, don@thegardenexpert.com, and ask me about the hop plants, and I'll turn you on to the folks that have them and see what happens there. Hops have been a huge crop in the Okanagan and up in Kamloops. They used to have tons and tons of hops.
We've got a few hop farms here still, but but not what they used to be. No, and I think it's actually coming back because of these microbreweries. You know, I know that some of them are suffering right now too, but the microbreweries often want to get these unique varieties of hops that all have unique attributes and flavors and that sort of thing. So now where we used to get like a variety, it was called hops. Now it's like there's strains, all kinds of strains, different varieties, and that people try for different effects, different flavors, that sort of thing.
Well, it's in a beer, I do enjoy a hoppy beer. Yeah, I do. Some people don't, but I enjoy a hoppy beer. And there's lots of craft breweries. The Red Truck has a real good hoppy beer.
Oh yeah,
and the
IPAs,
Indian Pale Ale is usually quite hoppy. So
they're easy to grow and they're hardy and they grow really big. I know I've seen many of them, 20 feet high. They'll just keep on going. Some issues with insect pests. They're subject to spider mites and leafhoppers and
and I thought that too.
I
thought they were quite subject, but Donnie had no problems with his at all. So it all depends on where you're at and what you're doing and.
Yeah, and you have good years and bad years, like everything.
Of course, Donnie's the expert at keeping insects under control.
That's true. He is a pest guy. That's for sure.
You betcha.
He knows.
We have Ariel joining us. Good morning, Ariel. How are you this morning?
Oh, well, I'm doing.
It's not 40 below here, but
Well, you know what? I enjoy the cold weather. I really do. I was born in Winnipeg,
Oh, there you go. So this is nothing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Okay. Anyway, as I live along the creek here, there is a hops vine that was allowed to just go and grow, and it is an absolute colossal pest because it gets into everything. All of those seeds splash around, and so I just want to warn people that if you plant it in your garden, You got to really watch that thing.
Manage it. You
there
bet.
you go.
Yeah, and that's where that's the whole thing, right? It's like management of a lot of these plants that will escape, and then look out, because they don't really need much for water either. They're quite drought tolerant.
And that is absolutely true. And do you know that it's classified as an invasive weed?
Really?
I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it is by the invasive weed people.
But we're going to allow it because it has to do with beer.
Yeah, well, you guys do it, but you come on over here and help me get rid of all the darn seeds. Yeah, right.
I wonder if it's like, because I don't see it spreading all over Donnie's yard, and he's got this wonderful wall of it on his patio. Yeah, and it doesn't seem to be spreading. I wonder if there's just certain, like Ken said, there's many varieties
seeds,
now.
They spread by seed.
Yeah, by seed.
Yeah, they do, and the seeds are just little seeds, and they just everywhere. They're just freaking everywhere. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm going to check with. Anyway, I appreciate the input, Ariel, as usual. We like to hear you call in. We appreciate it. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, dear.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, there you go. That put a damper on that.
Well, there's all kinds of plants and things that are invasive that we do grow, and some of the trees species, like Russian olives, can be like in our climate. It's we're pretty dry here, but they do show up here and there. Mm-hmm. They can live on their own. Look at the tree of heaven.
Oh yeah, that's a bad one.
Those are truly invasive. Mm-hmm. But certain plants, it's all about their seeds and how well the seeds survive, how many seeds they produce, how readily they take. Like in areas like more like say, I'm sure over towards like the Chilliwack area, more coastal areas, where they used to grow a lot of hops there too, and I'm sure they would run rampant if they escaped in that environment, for sure. But I don't know if anybody else knows about that, or any of our listeners in the Victoria area. Let us know if they've had issues.
There's a unique method of growing hops. They have that tall post with the tall overhead wires with the strung up. The hops are quite attractive.
You see that.
You can't miss them.
Yeah, and you see a big field with those tall posts and wires. Yeah, it's amazing.
And as I say, all along the highway, along through Kamloops, there was always lots of hop farms. And there was one recently just out on Highway 97, getting on towards Reed's Corner. If you look on the left-hand side, there was a big hop field there. Not sure how that... and I remember in Victoria, we were in Seashelt, or Gibson's, and there's a brewery there that grew their own hops. And, and like you say, one of the issues with it can be spider mite and other issues that way. Well, Ariel's brought up a point. We're going to research that and see if there's a certain type of hops that doesn't do what she's suggesting does, because, as you say, there's a number of them on there. We are going into spring now. We talked about what you can plant. One of the things I want to emphasize, if you're planting anything by seed in the greenhouse or in your kitchen windowsill or whatever, make sure you take your old containers and wash them. Put them in the sink, get some soap and water on there, and clean them all up, get rid of any possibility of, and sometimes dipping them in a bleach solution helps too.
Or spraying them with a little bit of rubbing alcohol.
That
works good too. It'll sterilize the surface. Just because some seedlings are susceptible to diseases and things, and they can spread on the containers themselves.
Right.
So good idea.
And we always say, don't throw your old soil out. Use your soil over again, either in the garden or your outdoor containers. You can reuse it every year, but don't use that old soil for seedlings.
Yeah,
or cuttings.
Yeah, or specialty plants, or valuable plants, that sort of thing. You can use it, but you want to pasteurize it ideally first. If you have like very important plants or fragile plants, you can take that and put it into literally baking pans and put it in your oven in just a very super low temperature for a couple hours, 2 to 3 hours, as low as you can go. A lot of stoves, they don't go as low as they used to, I think, but you just need that like 165 degrees Fahrenheit is generally ideal for about 2 to 3 hours, and that would do it. That's called pasteurization. And then it's good to go. You've killed pretty much everything in there at that temperature.
Yeah, and you don't kill some of the good stuff. There's some good stuff in there too, and that doesn't kill them, but it kills a lot of the bad stuff. And I've seen people using a turkey baster. Gives you a fair amount of volume there in a turkey baster.
Oh,
the big bolt, the turkey thing. That
and
but just be careful because it is peat. And you don't want to start any fires.
Yeah.
Have it moist. Make sure it's moist when it goes in there, not
some
dry.
moisture in it, yeah.
A little bit of moisture in there. I used to love lifting one of our cookers. We used to have the cookers at the nursery.
Yeah, we did
and
that
we'd
for
cook
years.
and pasteurize our potting soil. And when that cooker, especially in the wintertime, when you'd lift that cooker and the steam would come up and that aroma of freshly baked soil mix, it was really quite something.
And we used to put that beautiful compost into it, and that was sort of the key ingredient. But it was for that reason that we would really need to pasteurize it, because any of that or anything that comes out of the earth or any type of organic matter is going to have some weed seeds in it for sure, and some disease potential as well.
We sold 2,000 or 3,000 bags of that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah,
big,
it was awesome.
Big item for us. And I know when we closed our nursery, people were flying in there wanting to buy potting soil because we were closing down. It was really quite something.
Where am I going to get my potting soil?
Where are we going to get it? Yeah.
Well,
But, there's some good potting soils out there.
Oh, yeah. The professional blends, we always talk about that, is generally what the growers use are clean. Professional. It's professional blends. They come in bales usually. That's sort of a sign. And you get a lot of soil in one batch. It seems expensive, but it's not really. You get a lot for your dollar.
Out of that
and
3.8 cubic foot.
And it's the same stuff the pros are using.
Yep.
So
that's the Sunshine Mix. Generally, it's under this label Sunshine Mix.
And there's that HP as well. There's a couple of brands that are good,
Number 4 is very full. It got a lot more aggregate in it, and I use number 4 for my succucents and that sort of
a little more porous.
But often I will just get number 1 mix. It has the water, the surface tension breaker, whatever makes water wetter kind of thing.
Makes water wetter.
It's hard to wet peat moss, but if it's got that
wetting agent,
thank you. If it's got the wetting agent in there, it wets nicely. And then if I get the number 1, I use that for seedlings and whatnot. But if I'm going to root cuttings and use it for succulents and that sort of thing, I always add a bunch of perlite in.
Add some extra perlite, And depending, like you say, if you're potting up succulents, you can add extra perlite again. A little bit of sand sometimes is a nice addition for certain types of plants. Desert-type plants seem to appreciate the grit of that. Yeah.
But clean, folks.
And the sand, too, should be pasteurized, right? If you do have sand, you don't use it without warming it up.
And you have to be a little bit careful where the sand comes from, because sometimes the sand has been used as on the streets and that sort of thing, and there might be some salts and that sort of thing.
Ocean beach. It's got to be washed. And rinsed,
one thing I was going to ask Patrick, and I forgot to do it, was what their soil conditions were up there.
Yeah.
What they have for soil. The fact is, I'm sure they have a primary layer of topsoil up there.
Yeah, and it's just more acid than.
You think it'd be on the acid side
because
it's close,
the precipitation. Like if you get 8 feet of snow, you're going to get a lot of precip, and get a lot of precip tend to have acid soils. Typically, not always, but typically, and that's what these Meconopsis need is more of a acidic environment. A gritty sort of alpine condition is ideal. But what we have here in the Okanagan is clay and lime, pure lime. Yeah. So, we just don't have the ability to get the acidity needed. So
that's not the Victoria folks. Victoria folks are a little more on the acid side.
The Okanaganers.
Yeah. We are going to take that last break of the day. It's 9:45. We will take that break. We'll be back with the Garden Show after this short break. Well, we're going to go right to the phone lines here, and we welcome Pam to the show. Good morning, Pam.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I think January presents itself with lots of mixed impressions. Like some people dread January, some people love January. I don't know if anybody loves January, but we all kind of look forward to the months that are coming, especially for gardeners, because there's much more coming, right?
Oh, yeah.
Better seasons are coming. But I just wanted to throw out something. Last week, there was a day of the week that was designated by somebody somewhere in the world as Blue Monday. Sort of supposedly one of the downer days of the year. Debatable, controversial. Maybe we don't need to wallow with that one. It happened last week. We're moving on. The days are getting longer. But I thought about how we should find a day in January and call it Green something. Green Friday or something, and celebrate the things that we can do, as opposed to taking a pause to be depressed and stuff. And I wanted to throw out a thought. If people have not, if gardeners out there are kind of itching to do something, and your house plants are still kind of in that, I'm waiting for longer days before I do very much, so you can't really fertilize lots, you're not really pruning lots, it's kind of a little bit of a waiting game. Mm-hmm. Sprouts and microgreens, that's where it's at if you want to see action in a week. Sprouting seeds, not for growing to big plants, but just for eating, like for sprout eating, like alfalfa sprouts and mung beans. And microgreens are so encouraging because you can have, I'll hear you talk about the hops and how much they grow and how big they are, and they are pretty impressive and pretty interesting. Well, you plant a bunch of peas in some starting soil in a takeout container on your windowsill, and within a week you'll have 4 to 6 inches of beautiful pea sprouts that taste like garden fresh peas, and if that doesn't encourage you, I don't know what will. So that's my tip. That's my tip.
That's awesome. Microgreens. Every time you talk about microgreens, I'm thinking we got to get into this. I've got my my apple cider vinegar going because of your recommendation, and it's going quite nicely. I'm not. Well, we'll see in probably early April. We'll see what we can do with it.
Fun.
Yeah, but we're going to do that and microgreens and Pam, we appreciate that call. Thank you.
You're welcome. And it really is as simple as you were talking about soil. You do want some clean, new starter soil. You don't want to start with mold and bacteria and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But you don't have to even buy special seeds. I literally bought dried whole peas from a major grocery store for eating. So I figure if they're good for eating, like for soup, you can, and if they're seeds, they're probably going to sprout. Oh, yeah. And I ended up with the most, I'll send you some photos, Don, because it was I called it my little field, my little green field with snow in the background. And it was just that little psychological boost that I needed on any given day in January when it's dark and cold and I got to shovel some more. So,
nice to get something green that's fresh.
That's exciting. Like Send me some pictures, Pam. Appreciate it.
It just is. Okay, take care, guys.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And we have Don Burnett coming on with us. Is that your correct name, sir?
Don Stoltz. How you doing, Don?
Oh, Don Stoltz. Good for you. I love it.
Don.
We were wondering about that, Don Burnett.
Comments about that hops, because this year was the first year I've ever experienced growing them.
Yeah.
And same thing as you. I saw them on the side of the road, huge vines. I often thought, how nice would those be for a cover? I moved into a house that had them here already. The first thing I saw when I saw them, said to myself, was, those got to go. They're going to have leaf hopper. It's just a mess. Do you know they were one of the cleanest vines I've ever had in my yard? I strongly recommend that one. And I don't even know what variety it is. It only grew about 10 feet, 8 feet. So,
did it spread? Like the concern that Ariel had was that it spreads around. She says it's invasive.
Seedlings.
This is in a raised container, about 6 feet by 2 feet by 3 feet, and there's 4 plants in there. It's exposed. I didn't, and that grew its head off on the side of my deck. I didn't prune it much at all, and I whacked it right to the ground this year. And it looks like it's just going to come back again as normal. And this has been established. I see no suckering, no suckering.
Okay, and no seed sprout, no seed sprouting around. No.
I've not. Well, now remember. Well, I didn't have anything this summer because I wasn't here last year, but I saw no evidence of that this year.
Interesting. Well, Don,
now, again, I don't know the varieties. There may be a shorter variety that is more desirable than that really large one that you see growing that's 20, 30 feet up in those poles.
Now, Don, we got to talk to you for a second here. We've got about 3 minutes left here before we have to leave. But tell us about your Schlumbergia, your Christmas cactus. Tell us about your experience this year with that.
Well, it's not a very good one. It was the most gorgeous Schlumbergia cactus I've ever had in my garage. It was grown in a nice, really cold window. It was just blooming its head off, and so I brought it up into the house. Yeah. We can enjoy it. And then that day, it was a really sunny day, and I put it out on the deck, and that night wasn't so sunny and warm. That thing got hit with frost.
Yeah. And so you think it's done?
Well, it's not looking good. I think the roots got it. I think the plant itself might have saved itself, but I think the roots got it. So I'm just waiting to see if the roots will rejuvenate itself.
Yeah.
There was frost right next to it on the table where the sun wasn't shining. But the plant wasn't frozen. It was still limp. It was still tough enough to be there.
Yeah,
I had amazing.
I had some Schlumbergias that survived -7, and the outer parts of the plants just turned to mush, but the inner core inside was still alive, and the roots were okay. And so I just sheared it right back.
Ken, they darkened. Some of the tips fell off, but the main stem of the plant still stayed there. It was still there. It wasn't rotten. So there's maybe hope.
Yep.
Donnie, appreciate the call, and I'll just let our listeners know that this young man came on the Garden Show several times back in the 80s, and it was one morning when I woke up with a terrible cold, and I phoned him like 20 minutes before the show, and he hustled down and did that show for us. He's a giant. Appreciate it, Donnie.
Nothing on my plate other than just get people talking.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy. Thanks for the call.
Take care.
Thanks, Don. Take care. Bye.
And we're getting close to the end of the show, Ken. That was great. Wonderful to have Patrick on with us. And,
really nice.
And we appreciate all the calls. And as the spring comes on, the show's going to get busier and busier and busier as it normally does. And but we're looking forward to it. We love spring. We love gardening. We love the whole, and we love our family on the Garden Show. We love listening to our callers, and we appreciate the comments that we get on email and other methodology. We appreciate all those comments, it's really a fun thing to do every Saturday morning. And looking forward to hearing from the Dahlia Society from Victoria. And anybody else, we encourage anybody that has a club or something they want to promote as far as gardening goes to give us a call, because give me a shout or Ken a shout on the email, and we will make sure that happens. And on the other hand, if we can't think of something to say, somebody else will think of something to say, and that's what we do here in the Garden Show. Don't forget, you still got a chance to get on the bus to the Northwest Flower and Garden Show. Phone Sun Fun Tours 250-763-6133, and you'll be able to join us, and we're going to have some fun on that trip as well. So on that note, we're going to start the tips and plants of the week. Well, my tip of the week, of course, is to join a garden club. There's lots of garden clubs around, whether it's the bonsai club, whether it's the cactus club, the succulent clubs. There's all sorts of different clubs that you can enjoy, but that's a way to expand your gardening experience, to join a garden club. My plant of the week is the Maranta, or the prayer plant, one of the great plants that you can use as a house plant, and this is the time of year when you're enjoying your house plants, and the prayer plant is one of the easier ones to look after, as long as you don't overwater it.
Yeah, you betcha. All right, I also have a tip and a plant, and my tip of the week this week is that if you do have any geraniums that are in storage, you might want to bring one or two of them up and get them started. It is getting towards the end of January now. You know, it takes about a month for them to get excited and start to grow, and if they're growing around the end of February, that's perfect timing. You can take a few cuttings and get ready to go for next year, so it's always just fun to get something going. All right, now my plant of the week this week was the perennial, or the hosta of the year for 2024, which is called Hudson Bay. And this is an improved variety that has got this beautiful bluish tinge as well as green, and then a yellow blotch in the center. And it is a very pretty plant and very sturdy. Looks like a real good one. And that plant averaged 24 to 30 inches in diameter and about 24 inches tall, just like a lot of typical hostas. That's my tips and plants for this week. Remember to check growercoach.com and Grower Coach on YouTube.
You betcha. And I do have the Shigo quote. I didn't do it last week because it's a long one, and we've got time to do it this week. My Shigo quote of the week is, the protection system of yaks that worked for them for millions of years worked against them when man and guns came. Yaks circle their young when threatened. They were easy targets for the pioneers. How many long-standing natural systems has man destroyed? So there you have it. And he's always has a brilliant thing to say. That's the Shigo quotes. And on that note, we're going to say goodbye and see you next week with more of the garden.